Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Hello and good morning. How are you today?
Good. I'm good. We're close to the move, which is good because we're getting stuff done, but
Yeah.
moving is not fun.
Now, are you able to throw some things out at least? It's usually the best thing
Throwing,
about a move is you get rid of junk.
throwing stuff out, donating stuff. But when we moved to the city, Monica and I were like, "Look, we're not really going to decorate the apartment. We're not really going to go crazy. We're only going to be here for a year. I think it's been 3.5 years. So the walls still we put a couple of things up, but we never really totally leaned into like furnishing the place,
Yeah, good for
which
you.
is fine by your boy.
Yeah,
I can
it's
live
terrific.
in a white walled room with the mattress on the bed. Have you seen that meme with like just a TV on the floor, mattress on the floor,
Yeah.
and like I could do that. I could be fine. Obviously, it's gonna change in the new place, but it's moving's a lot to organize.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
when we were moving out of the apartment, I was kind of in charge of things. It's a bad idea. So I hired a moving company and I thought like, yeah, I'll tell them like the big items, but then the rest of the smaller stuff we'll just throw it in the back of the truck. Not realizing that you had to like document everything. So we left so much crap in the apartment that I just gave to the next owner. I just was just like, you know what? We'll throw this in. You want fake plants? You got it. You want a desk? It's yours.
yeah, I'm laughing because I did the same thing. I just off the top of my head, like, oh, we got a couple dressers, we got a big mirror, and Monica's
Yeah.
like, you gotta give her the whole list. You
Yep.
gotta double check the list.
Yep.
She's doing the right thing. But and then you have to. I don't know, like, are they gonna come with boxes? Are we to find our own boxes for clothes? My dad's come by and take a couple
Both.
stuff too.
Yeah. And yeah. If you want boxes, you got to tell them how many boxes you want.
Yeah, I think the only time I hired a mover is when I hired you to move to a fifth floor walk up.
Yeah.
I think I paid you in a couple of beers.
That was efficient also.
That was the day that we hung out with Drew in the Lower
Yeah.
East Side.
Yes.
Monday. Anyways, let's get to a not so fun book, by my opinion. Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, published in 1932. Quick synopsis. Brave New World is a dystopian novel by Aldous Huxley set in a future society where technology, mass production, and genetic engineering have created a world of perfect conformity and stability. In this society, individuality is suppressed in favor of collective happiness, with people divided into rigid caste systems alpha, beta, gamma, etc., based on genetic engineering. The state controls all aspects of life, from reproduction to social interactions, using conditioning and a drug called soma to maintain order and prevent unrest.
Yeah. This is kind of the first in our sci-fi, right? We haven't done anything sci-fi related yet.
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't think so. So it was a good one to kick that off with because it is kind of an original, given that it was written in 1931. And when you look at it in that perspective, it is pretty unique, I would say. But when I was reading it, I was noticing that a lot of similarities with other sci-fi books, movies, series, whatever, without realizing that this one was one of the first, probably.
I couldn't agree with you more saying if I read this in 1933, this
Yeah,
would have been
awesome.
absolutely
Yeah,
astounding.
yep,
And it is pretty cool for what direction he gets right. I won't say he gets like the specifics right, but some of the direction I would definitely credit him in getting right. Um, so I will give him like a B or B plus for ingenuity and prescience, but I just didn't like his writing style or the narrative in general or the characters.
Characters definitely not. I didn't like the characters at all, and the actual reading of it, yeah, it did feel rushed. I would say is the best word. Where the story was drawn out and the characters were introduced, but it felt rushed to me. It felt like we were steamrolling through things, which wasn't bad because it made the read itself shorter.
Yeah.
But it felt like it was kind of crammed together from the character development standpoint to actually what they were doing within it. It all kind of combined together and happened quickly.
The character introductions were lackluster, if there much at all. Like, who is this person? Why do we care about this person? And then some people, the people who are the main characters and the people who are absolutely there for just one paragraph are introduced in the exact same way.
Yeah.
So
would you say there's three main characters?
Yeah, there's Bernard, Lelina, and I would say John.
And the Savage, John, whatever. Yeah, that's what I would say the main characters also.
But definitely Lelina, and Bernard are introduced in similar ways as just other characters who are just floating around for the first quarter of the book.
Yeah, and the book starts off with an introduction.
Does this person matter? Does this person not matter?
Yeah, I like the way it started off actually with kind of an introduction into society first before the story and the plot actually takes over. So like they're touring they're touring like one of the reproduction facilities and they're kind of introducing you to where they are in society. I thought that was a good idea. And that set the stage for, hey, here we are. We're reading a book about, a unique society. But then after that, you're right, it kind of lacked any depth with any of the characters.
Yeah, that definitely trough between the first induction at the reproduction facility to meeting John the Savage is dull.
Yeah.
You meet John, you go back to the World State or New London, kind of one and the same. And then it picks up a little bit, but I found that again, I keep coming back to the idea of if I read this in 1935, it would have been absolutely incredible. But now you're like, oh, this is like
that's what I was thinking too.
There's there's a totalitarian government who's controlling everything. This is just like V for Vendetta, and this is just like 1984. I would say the
1984. The island.
Oh, the island, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the big four dystopian novels are Animal Farm, 1984, Fahrenheit 451, and this, and Brave New World.
I never read War of the Worlds, but I think that is kind of similar.
I think it's very much like sci-fi. It's like alien invasion.
Yeah, it's more alien invasion, I think, but I never read that one.
No, neither did I. But I've read the other three, but not this one. So I was like, hey, let's read this one. Also, quick tidbit. In 1998 and 1999, the Modern Library, which I don't really know, ranked Brave New World at number 5 on its list of 100 best novels of the 20th century. This is a book that you hear a lot about, like Brave New World. If you like dystopian, if you like, sci-fi, gotta check out Brave New World. But The Observer ranked it number 53, top 100 greatest novels of all time. The Big Read Survey by BBC, number 87. So this
must have been, when this came out, this must have been like world changing. This must have been like very, very popular, sought after. This is not close to a top 5 for me in the 20th century. Far, far away from it, actually. This must have been a big, big deal when it came out.
So why do you think it loses its... What do you think? Just time passes by, and why do you think it lost its impact?
Yeah, I think when people reproduced the idea or created their own dystopian novels, they took the good parts of this and then they added their own parts, which were better.
Yeah,
I think
improvement upon the basis of the idea.
Yeah, so they kind of took the idea and they made it better over time. But other than that, yeah, the writing itself also, I think, is probably better in other books, like you said, in terms of character introduction and things like that. Not that I thought this book was bad or dated. I mean, if you read it, you're not thinking that, it's not like you're watching a black and white movie.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I just think that other authors have done it better. maybe building on the shoulders of this guy in this book. But yeah, there's plenty of other sci-fi. Like when I was reading this, I kept thinking like, gosh, I wish I was reading Red Rising again.
It is
Because
a little the beginning is a little Red
caste
Rising
system in
with
the beginning, like,
the caste
yeah,
system,
yes, exactly.
because I don't think Animal Farm has it in the species of animals, but not too much in 1984.
You know,
Not too
the
much in
alphas, the gammas, the betas, yeah, that all got me into like the Red Rising thought, like, gosh, I wish I was reading that again. So
I think we got to do Red Rising. You read all the books. I read the first two. I
I
think
would love to do that again. That was awesome. If we
we'll
are going to
definitely-
stay on this sci-fi kick, yeah, that's up there.
we'll definitely do Red Rising. So the thing I was kind of perplexed about why I didn't like this book, because it's something that should be up my alley. I do like dystopian. I do like thinking about where the future will take you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I didn't put my mind in a good place of while reading. It was only upon reflection of thinking about it, reading it in the 30s or 40s. So I read a couple reviews or watched a couple reviews and recaps on YouTube, and not one mentioned loved his writing.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, maybe that just has a greater impact on me than,
You
you know,
would expect.
nothing was like pacing, great character. It was like, oh, this is so, ingenious in the way it frames the ills of society, which, people, rely on substances, people seek comfort. There can be mass propaganda. I get all that. Maybe that's because we've grown up with the internet and people assume that there's being mass propaganda, and people are seeking comfort over other challenges. So that impact, which is supposed to pack a powerful punch within the book, isn't there for me or for the modern reader.
Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't one specific scene or anything that stayed with you too. I think that the chance for that scene was when the guy John Savage, who was not created in this system, meets with the controller, who's the head honcho, the guy in charge.
Mustafa Mond.
Yeah, who
Great
knows
name. Great
things.
name. I will give great name.
And he knows things about the society and how it was created and about the world before the society. So he's different. He knows things that people don't. And so they're having a conversation and they're talking about, Shakespeare and free choice and things like that. That could have been a really like impactful section. And it failed for me to kind of get to that point, to get to that level.
Also, another big dystopian is obviously in this generation is Hunger Games, and so he kind of plays the part of Snow from Hunger Games, guy who the puppet master behind the whole.
Yeah, or the guy in Matrix. I don't know which. I think it was the second movie in the Matrix. The guy who's in the like control room watching everything. I
think he called it architect.
Beards. Yeah,
I watched the Matrix. I think I might have missed them when they first came out. I watched the first one.
Uh-huh.
I watched them over COVID.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
They're okay.
Yeah.
I felt like I missed a phenomenon when they happened. I was like, oh, I gotta watch this. I never really watched them all.
Yeah, I mean, late '90s. It was it.
It was it. It was huge. Yeah. And then I think they made a new one.
I think there's 4
that came out recently.
Matrix, Reloaded, Revolutions, and then I think there's one more.
Yeah, I don't know if I guess you would call that dystopian. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Well, yeah, alternate reality, I guess you could say.
Robots have taken over in the same sense that Terminator would be dystopian.
Yep. Yeah, you can make that case.
I think it's pretty interesting that like the conditioning, the infantile conditioning, the reliance on soma to keep people, placated, the people's willingness to accept it wasn't like forced upon them. It's when people face strife, they just let me take a gram of soma.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be, they said, like a mix between alcohol and Christianity without the side effects.
Without the downside.
Something like that. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of like the creation of a society, when I was reading it, I kept thinking to myself, like, yeah, this could work in a way. Like, this could actually, if they were able to do this and function, I kind of get it, and I think it could make sense. The sleep training was funny because I remember in college I tried to do that once, where I was like, I had to memorize words, I think of Spanish or something like that, and so I recorded myself like saying words and then definitions and tried to sleep with it.
And now you're fluent in Spanish.
It didn't work as well as this book made the sleep training seem.
Yeah. I bet if you're in 1930, you're like, if I could record this and have a personal audio player, I
Yeah.
will. Checks out.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it didn't get too scientific with some of the things, but a lot of it did kind of check out. Or I could say, like, hey, yeah, I could see this kind of system potentially, I don't say working, but yeah, you could develop this system and it could function.
Yeah, I think I like how semi-believable it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him credit for that. It was semi-believable that, well, it's because it wasn't, it didn't give the impression it was forced upon people. People accepted it and liked the new state, or I'll just say New London, or the world state.
Yeah, because they didn't know anything else, because they were doing this from conception of a person. They're at the point of conception, they're already, changing genes and adding things from that point on to kind of create the perfect person for this society. And the couple people who don't fit exactly just because of whatever nature chasing over, that's an interesting concept too, where they take those people and they move them just out of the society. They move them to an island, they call it.
Yeah. One thing we haven't touched on is how prevalent Henry Ford is in the book.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
Which I get, but it kind of takes you out of it because he obviously invented, Model T and the conveyor belt and assembly line, and so that was probably in the 1910s.
Mm-hmm.
And this was 20 years later, and it's still reshaping society. So, as one living in that era, you think, where else can this be applied? And so, one of the darkest features it could be applied into, would be human reproduction, the most least assembly line like thing. It's the most biological, humane thing. So that's kind of a smart inverse of.
Yeah, I think that was smart too. It's just, yeah, if you're optimizing efficiency, if you're making cars or refrigerators or you name it, then why wouldn't you think to do it with people?
Just the amount that he's revered and how they changed the timeline into him. Was it after T and before Model T and after T, and instead of "Oh Lord," you say "Oh Ford." That's one of those things that's probably gotten a little hokey.
Yeah, that I kept
100 years.
having to think back on that, to what they were doing with the T and the Ford part of it. I kept thinking that there might be some other connection in the past to an actual like biblical sense. I kept trying to think back if there was somebody in like the Old Testament or anything like that, but I didn't think that was the case. That they really didn't use anything religious based.
Now, do you think Huxley is pro-religion?
Huxley, Bernard.
No, the Aldous Huxley, the author.
Oh, the author. Do I think he's pro-religion? No, I would say definitely not.
Yeah, I would say no as well, but he seems like because the absence of religion is a bad thing, you think the presence of religion is a good thing.
My best guess is that I wouldn't think he was religious at all, just because he makes a really good case of why it doesn't really matter. Maybe that there is a single entity or grand creator or something like that, but I would say that he's kind of agnostic to religion's place in society.
Yeah, because
Meaning
he
that
definitely.
you could replace it with something else that could serve the same purpose.
Yeah, I that's one of the questions I had left, because in like the Savage Land or New Mexico, where that was where they go, weren't some of those people like they believed in Jesus and they talked about I think one character envisions himself on the cross. At
Well,
one
he
point.
does. Yeah, he did it to himself. The savage, like, not self-mutilated himself, but he went into like the rocks of the desert and sat in the sun with his arms out as if he was crucified.
Yeah. And he describes him as Christianity without the side effect or without.
Yeah.
So that means you would think Christianity has a downside.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make one think that you don't think favorably of organized religion or of monotheistic religions or in that sense. I bet he has a conflicted view about it because that's how I left. That's what I interpreted from his book. But the society as a whole without religion is kind of weird because it's just so technologically focused and frightening in its coldness.
Yeah, frightening colds. Yeah, that's the best way to put it in terms of how they. But at the same time, cold. But also, I kept trying to think like it might. I could see it being nice to not have the type of mental responsibilities as we do in our society.
I agree. I see where you're going. So you would just be like, "This is the path I'm on. This is the life I live. I live into my youth until I'm 60, and then I die."
Yeah, but and die is just it's like another day.
Because they don't fear death.
No.
They know it's yeah.
Yeah, not at all. They don't fear death. They don't have to suffer through the period leading up to death. As soon as they get to that point, they give them more drugs. So, yeah, there's no. I think they said it throughout. There's really no these people that don't know pain. They don't know suffering. They don't know anything like that.
Yeah, well, that's kind of interesting because if this is for them, it could for them, the people living in this world, is it a utopia?
Yeah, I would say for the people who fit it, yes. Now there are outliers like Bernard and the other guy Watson, just because of whatever something happened with them in the process where things were a little bit different. So it was like a prison more than a utopia. But I think for many people, yeah, it was absolutely a utopia.
That's a little bit frightening.
Yeah.
From the outside looking in, it could be a dystopia. From the inside looking out, it's a utopia.
Yeah, I mean, I think but that's kind of part of that the process that they were describing. Like you could fit any piece if you make it the right way into this. Now we in our real world aren't those pieces that fit this, but if you have a couple of generations and all the science in the world, that you could make people to fit this model.
Oh yeah, I bet genetic engineering and from if you ask people who are into like medical, biological physics, like cutting edge, will there be nanotechnology that works ingrained into the human body? I think definitely yes. Obviously Neuralink, but so I think Lenina, she definitely didn't like the you know having sex and that and no romance and limitless partners. She wanted to be with John. So, but then you
Who
can say,
wasn't part of the system.
but are other people feeling that way within the civilization? So is it actually
I
not?
think she was introduced to somebody outside the system.
Oh, that's a good point.
And so that pulled her away from it. So she saw a glimpse, outside the realm of her world, and so it pulled her.
So if without John, you don't have that curtain lifted.
Without John, and even without maybe Bernard too, because Bernard was part of the system, but he had something just different enough that caused his own kind of confusion and angst, and I feel like that could spread a little bit. Just the way she kept saying it was just like, yeah, she was going on dates with him, but he was strange, he was off. There was things about him that were different.
Yeah. So if the world state is a 9.5 out of 10 out of totalitarian, population controlled, population accepting of this placating culture slash substance slash, hierarchy. I don't think modern America is at a 0. I don't think we're absolutely independent, absolutely, self-sufficient. And so we're somewhere on that scale.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
So is it incumbent upon us to move further away from that scale, or do we just have to be wise enough to not?
Yeah. It's a really tough question. I mean, because if our like portion of that scale, let's say like it goes higher because everybody is into Christianity,
Yep.
then that would be great. Maybe if everyone is the same religion and believed in the same thing and everyone followed those rules, sure, maybe. Or you could say, what if everybody is like 100% totalitarian, pro-America, like democracy, America first, maybe that's the best. Yeah, I guess you could make the case that you could run up that scale with a number of different things that might help. But I also think part of it that he was saying was that the size of the society mattered, right?
Okay.
Because it was like controlled in terms of the amount of people and things like that. Whereas it made it seem to me that if this got too big, it wouldn't be able to be controlled anymore.
Yeah, which I think is what happened with the Soviet Union, is just they couldn't keep it going. But also, we don't want to, slide that toggle up towards totalitarian population control, but also we don't want to slide it away into, individualistic self-sufficiency, where I like going to the grocery store and having food there and not having to hunt for my food every day.
Well, just in terms of in this book, so which would you choose? To be a person in the society, so not one of the three characters, but a person who this is
a drone,
or a person living in the New Mexico who is totally free, basically lives like an American Indian, free to believe in their God, has their own family, has people within it, so they know what it is to like care about somebody, for somebody to care about them, etc.
I would pick New Mexico, as
Yeah, I think we would.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love my family. But I definitely see it if you're in that
But
system.
if you were a blank slate, it would be hard to convince me to choose that, which is the life of difficulty, struggle, love, etc. Or you could have, hey, it's just going to be a perfect 60 years.
Technically, I was a blank slate, and I accepted what was born into. I was born Catholic. I'm still Catholic. I was born in America. I mean, I still live in America.
Yeah, you were kind of a blank slate, but you were. I mean, your genes came from your parents, and they were, there was things about you that were not made in a lab to fit the utopian society.
Yeah, that gets back to the scale kind of analogy.
How much you could do so. Yeah.
Like, am I exactly like my two sisters? No. But am I exactly not like them? Also, no.
That was kind of interesting about it. Also, is that so the alpha part of the society, so their best people were allowed some differences. So everyone was big, tall, and strong, but they were allowed some differences. But then the worker bees of the society, they were duplicating. They were making clones.
Yeah, they were just replicants of each other.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
And I think,
again, from an efficiency standpoint, that makes sense to me. Like I
think you're pro world state, totalitarian Lando over here.
If I have a factory that needs to assemble pieces, I would like each set of hands to be as close to exactly the same as possible.
Yeah, every set of uniforms is the same. Every set of you know what you're getting every day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, I kept reading and thinking to myself like, hey, this makes sense.
Which is kind of like scary in that sense, where the benefits of living in a society like this.
Yes.
Nice. I think we got a lot more out of that than I was expecting.
I mean, it's a wide open topic that we could
It
talk.
is. It is. The more you talk about dystopians and
Yeah, the more you
what
talk
that
about
means
this
for our
stuff, you could
society,
have a full full class, a full lecture, a full semester on this stuff.
I
But
know.
that's
The
why I
reason
wouldn't
want to do
mind
more
keeping with maybe after the next book or two. I wouldn't mind keeping with this sci-fi.
There's
theme.
one sci-fi World War III book I really want to read called 2034.
Okay.
It's just like what a future of the next World War would be. I think there's another one, maybe World War V. I don't know, called 2055. Don't quote me on either of those things.
Yeah.
Those things just piqued my interest. I'll definitely look up some more dystopian books. I bet we'll do 84 and Animal Farm at some point. They're quick reads.
Yeah.
I thought both of those were very good. I read Fahrenheit 451 within the last 3 or 4 years. I liked it as well. It just
I wasn't the last 3 or 4 years, but yeah, I read that a long time ago. But the next one on our list, if we're jumping into that, I think that 3-body problem.
Yeah, I think that could be good.
I started that. I started that. Yeah, it fits here also, and I'm into it.
Okay. Let's just get into the next books. Considering I'll probably have, we just need 3-body problem, and then
we're gonna lock that one in for next. 3-body
let's
problem
do that one
by
next,
C.C.
especially if
Liu.
you started it.
Yeah.
And then I kind of want to do some of these, kind of get on the ancient civilization stuff. I think this book Sea People could be cool because it's about the colonization of like Polynesia, and then that can lead us into Fingerprints of the Gods, kind of ancient people. So I think those can be. Want to lock those in for our next 3 book?
Yeah, that'll move us into a different genre.
Love it. Other than that, you pumped up for you watch the USA Canada hockey game tonight?
Yeah, I actually am kind of looking forward to that. The first one was awesome. I did tune into that. It was awesome.
It was incredible. I was thinking about it on the way home from work yesterday. This might be the first sporting event I'm excited about since the Yankees lost the World Series.
Yikes. Jeez.
And before that, very long.
Care about meaning that you are very,
I look up what time this game starts and I'm sitting down to watch it.
And you're also you're going to be affected by the outcome.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like miss work if you were sitting with Canada in hockey. Like I won't be shocked, but yeah, I would be bummed. If I'd be bummed. Giants games when they lose, I don't really get bummed.
No, Giants games did nothing for me. Yeah, no, that wasn't it.
Obviously, it was super bummed out when the Yankees lost. Still am. But yeah, this would be the first sporting event where I will have emotional investment since late October, and then since before that.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it too, but it does kind of bring it back to me where I'm like just counting the Rangers out there and like hoping they don't get much play because I just get worried about people getting hurt in these type of things, and that ruins it for everybody.
Yeah, but how often does it actually happen when someone actually
if it happens once, it's too much.
Didn't Paul George like absolutely crush his knee in some USA
in the All-Star game? That's not surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a good idea and stuff like that. I would do All-Star games a little bit differently though.
Well, I don't think they're going to do this every year. I think they're going to like rotate between regular All-Star games.
Yeah, this was like a trial version. It just worked out really well. But I think the Olympics is 2026.
Yeah, but
and then they have a World Cup, I think, after that, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know the full extent of what they're doing with it, but they're definitely going to keep it. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, keep something like it for sure. Yeah, I mean, it worked.
It would be awesome if USA won.
It would be awesome. Yeah. Yes, I would be excited if they did so, and it has kind of taken over the sports world right now. It's perfect timing for it because there's nothing else going on. Yeah.
perfect timing.
Yes, they nailed it. And a Thursday night at whatever 7, 8 o'clock, they've kind of nailed that too.
Yeah. All right, go USA. We got 3 Body Problem.
Yeah.
One of my friends highly recommended it. Say he liked it. Apparently, there's a Netflix show that's not very good. And then we got another thing I'm interested in: ancient civilizations into Sea People, and then Fingerprints of the Gods.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. 3 Body Problem. Already started it. Good so far.
Good so far.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm into it.
Cool. I think it's serious, so maybe we can touch back on that later too.
Serious or a series?
It's a series.
Okay. Yeah. I'll look into it. Yeah. We'll see. You want to give a quick numbers on?
Oh yes. I will give our discussion a 9. I will give the book. I really didn't like reading it, and I think the whole time coming in here, I was like, oh, it's gonna be a 1-2. I'll bump up to a 1-8. I really didn't like reading it. Talking about it is a lot more fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give it like a 4 flat, because like you said, this isn't something I would recommend somebody read. I think there's better ones to read, but reading it was fine. So it's not something I would recommend reading it, but if you're stuck on a plane and it's under your chair and you have to read it, it's not bad.
Totally. I mentioned this to my mom and my dad that we were doing this book this week, and they're like, ooh, that's kind of like a high school reading book. And it kind of is, because it's like a literary staple.
You said, you read it and you have like a bigger in-depth conversation about it.
And then you have this conversation about it.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. I mean, it's like if a book ends up doing that, then technically, like in some sense, it did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, definitely. And again, getting through it was not difficult.
Yeah. All right, man. This was good.
Good stuff.
Take it easy. Talk next week.
Sounds good.